Hello! It's been a while, hadn't it? You probably know that Little Nightmares had a baby, aka a sequel back in February. It features, among other things, malnourished children swimming in poopy organ water. That's the LN appeal. Savage, grotesque, like the time I was doing rituals in my room and summoned Ron Jeremy's head on a platypus's body. It was an accident. Nothing a firm grip, garbage bags, and duct tape couldn't fix. The universe of Little Nightmares is a cryptic hellscape with darkly mystical forests, an ominous tower that broadcasts despair, and a TV guide channel.
And welcome to TV Guide.
And there's a clean-cut interdimensional corporate suit who oversees it all. Given that you're watching this video, you likely already know the horrible, terrible thing that 6 does to Mono at the end. Spoil! Come on, the game's been out since February. The girl in the yellow raincoat could have saved the boy who wore a bag on his head, but she didn't. I'm here to tell you that Mono had to die. Whoa, don't shoot the messenger, okay? I haven't posted in 10 months. You think I haven't had time to think about this? Yeah. The whole cast of hideous characters, the whole crazy story climaxed in this very moment, inspiring animations like the ending everyone wants. Today, I give you a hard and unforgiving statement on why Mono had to die! You people can't handle the truth! If you wanted fluffy bunny content, then why did you click? Join me down the rabbit hole before it's too late! Before you give in to despair and existential dread. This perspective will save you more than you understand. I'm Grant of Treesicle. There's been plenty of videos that covered this, but none have quite given it the Treesicle flair. So put a paper bag over your head, swim through poopy organ water, apply for a job at the heart of evil, then get a mask to fix your not face. This is the story of meaning found despite horrifying experiences, of strings pulled from the shadows to control the shitty puppet show of society while literal children are the only ones trying to stop it. This is the story of why Mono had to die. The story you never knew. Whoa, come on! First of all, I want to shout out Scary Gun Animations, who said that they couldn't wait for Treesicle's return to cover this topic. This one goes out to you, bud, and of course, to all of you other kind folks who enthusiastically asked for Treesicle's return. It's good to be back. It really is. One day, I'll tell you what exactly Ryan and I have been up to since,
like and subscribe!
Back to work! But today, we've got other priorities. To answer our burning question, let us go back to the very last thing we saw before the start of Little Nightmares 2. The ending of The Residence, the last of the Secrets of the Maw DLCs. As the credits finish rolling, the camera pans out to show a filthy room with a staticky TV and the silhouette of a man. As you probably guessed, if you have any knowledge of Little Nightmares 2, this is the Thin Man. Duh. The same Thin Man who, prior to getting corrupted by the transmission and getting intimate with Father Time, was named Mono. The kid with the TV superpowers. A child who looked to be our 5G remote control against the signal tower and the oh-so-powerful transmission. A transmission so overwhelming it has forced the Pale City to bend and break under its power. It's long been known that Little Nightmares 2 is a prequel to the original and the DLCs, because 6 doesn't have her raincoat or her powers yet. Which means the Thin Man on this TV is a sign that even during Little Nightmares 1, the Thin Man remains. In order to truly decode this transmission and how it ties in to our burning question, we must start from the beginning. Not the Big Bang, but from the start. In the wilderness, our protagonist Mono awakens. The TV is on. From what we know about Mono and his TV powers, chances are he teleported out of this television before it turned off. Throughout the forest level, we see more and more TVs scattered about. Assuming these TVs were all functioning at some time, that tells us that the Thin Man used to have more reach into the forest. Because Thin Man controls signal tower signal, TVs carry the signal, you got it. It's interesting. With his powers, did the Thin Man used to come out here? And if he did, then why would he come all the way out here? Did he remember that this place was the start of his journey? Or was he out here looking for something? All questions we will get to the bottom of in due time, gentle viewer. We embark on our journey until we reach a cabin. A spooky poopy cabin that would probably drive down local real estate prices if the rest of this universe didn't suck so much. Inside, we find a little girl playing a music box locked downstairs. We free this girl, who, you probably know, turns out to be Six from the OG Little Nightmares. In her room, however, we see interesting markings on the wall. There's a gnome and a person holding hands, 50 tally marks, and most interestingly, 2 distinct drawings of children. This tells me that Six was likely trapped here with another child at some point, and that one of the children befriended a gnome. I'd be down to be friends with a gnome. The latter is confirmed when Six and Mono find a gnome in the attic. And as we venture out of this house and into a porta potty, we encounter a shadow kid. If I had to guess, I would say this is the same kid from one of the 2 drawings in Six's room. But what is more important about the Shadow Kid's presence is that it means one thing in particular. The Thin Man was once here in the forest. Because Shadow Kids only spawn when the Thin Man gets a children. And if the drawings of the 2 children are any indication, it was recent. This cabin is not a safe place, and probably less safe with Mono being here. Plus, with Mono freeing Six, he's exposing her to the wrath of our interdimensional corporate overlord. I might kill someone for that. Maybe even less. Six and Mono make their way off the property and run into the first monster of the game, the Hunter. As we frantically try to escape, the Hunter pulls out his double-barrel shotgun and takes aim in an attempt to take us down. Each stage comes and goes, as the Hunter frantically continues his search to capture and kill us. During this whole escape sequence, one thing became very apparent. The Hunter only focused on Mono, not Six. Why would a Hunter solely focus on a single target instead of both? Because they're both ripe for the killing. Our protagonist duo looks to be making it out until the Hunter corners them in a shed. Our kid heroes shoot the Hunter, escape out the back of the shed, and use a wooden door as a raft. And while our escape was successful, it still led to questions about the Hunter. Why didn't he try to kill an escaping Six, especially when he had her locked in his basement or side room? Doesn't matter. And that's when it dawned on me. The Hunter was trying to protect Six. But why? He doesn't exactly seem like a nice guy. Six was locked away in this house, a house the Hunter has been living in for a long time. Long enough to stop a family from turning into viewers and prop them up around a table. Long enough to pile up dirty dishes in the kitchen. It's not like the Hunter didn't know she was in the house. She was locked in a room. He was keeping her there. And there used to be another kid here too. But the Hunter wasn't necessarily protecting the kids. He just wanted them as bait. The Hunter knew the Thin Man likes children, so he kept him around to lure the corporate suit in so that he could have a long, thin, finely dressed trophy on his wall. The ultimate prize. Just imagine having Jeff Bezos on your wall or something. I actually don't want to. But why was the Thin Man coming out here in the first place? Well, as we find out eventually, the Thin Man is Mono, so he must remember rescuing Six from the cabin out in the middle of the wilderness. The same Six who betrayed him at the end. So he keeps coming out here in an attempt to exact his revenge on her. But Six got lucky. The Hunter locked her away before the Thin Man could get to her. And in his attempts to destroy the girl who betrayed him in his childhood, there were other casualties. Kids who got in the way as he was hunting down his raincoat-wearing nemesis. These are the Shadow Kids, victim of the Thin Man's quest to seek revenge on Six. Then Mono entered the picture. Freed Six, they escaped and ultimately killed the being that was trying to use Six as bait. And now, Six is on her own, with a random boy, Mono, at her side. But it's okay, Mono is a stand-up guy, for now. Mono and Six ride this wooden raft all the way to the Pale City, the main gloomy city in the game. The buildings are distorted and run down due to the effects of the transmission from the signal tower on the city's population. These people aren't exactly the most productive citizens. At first glance, the city looks to be abandoned. There's clothing coming out of this TV as though someone dove headfirst into it. A bunch of clothes sitting in bar stools as though their owners just vanished. A man's clothing hanging from a noose. Don't ask me why the pants are still attached to that dress shirt. I can answer a lot of questions, but that belt is from another realm. Bottom line is that all of this is very odd, even for an abandoned city. Safe to say, the Thin Man and his transmission got to all these people. From here, we see Mono's first true TV superpower. As we enter this room, the TV is emitting some disturbing frequency that is really affecting Mono, seemingly absorbing his life force. We see specks of him slowly floating off his body until he begins to tune the TV, taking us into the hallway we saw at the beginning of the game. We make our way to see what's behind that door until Six yanks us out. Six brings us back to reality. But what does all this tell us? We know Mono's the Thin Man, so him changing the TV, tuning it, makes sense. But what about the TV absorbing his life force? Earlier, when we encountered the first Shadow Kid, we saw his body was completely gone, but something was left behind. A soul. As for the people we've seen thus far around the Pale City, there have been no souls, and their bodies have completely vanished. It's as though the souls of these adults have been crushed so much that their desire to live has been destroyed in the deepest parts of themselves. Much further on, there's even an empty business suit sitting at a bus stop like some poor guy was on his way to work when he finally just totally died inside. All of this speaks to the despair broadcasted through the airwaves and through the villain's hands. Six is taking all of this in. She, being not a total sheep, knows this world is hot garbage. It's the dump on a 115-degree day with high humidity. It's Neckbeard's nether regions. I might be ready to murder too if I lived through all this. I've been talking a lot about murder today. I'm sorry. I'm joking, okay? If I kill someone, it was self-defense. From here, we enter a school. One of the first rooms we enter has a single chair with rope and 40 marks on the wall, which tells us somebody was trapped here at some point for 40 days. Though honestly, I haven't pinpointed the significance here. The only thing I could think of is maybe it's a homage to the 40-year-old virgin, but that seems unlikely. If you have an idea, please let me know down below. I'm not sure what to think. As we progress deeper into the school, we evade traps until ceramic children drab our best buddy Six away. These ceramic kids are obedient boarding school kids, and we gotta save our friend Six from these squares and kill us some bullies while we're at it. Ha! And so we smash bullies' heads and see some odd things along the way. We see a bully drawing weird sketches on the ground, including some very obvious signal towers and the all-knowing eye, as though those two things are the only thoughts going through his mind anymore. He's in a trance. And portraits of kids with dunce caps on them, immortalizing these punishments for all to see. We also see a dead bully tied to a chess piece with a crown on his head. These are the kids that have gone too far out of line in a school of crazy derelicts. In fact, everything from this school seems to parallel a Pink Floyd song I used to listen to a bunch, Another Brick in the Wall. And if you've seen the music video, you would understand why. We have kids obediently at their desks, fires burning books, and kids wearing masks that are oddly similar to the ones in the game. And kids being ground up into food, I guess? Sausages, specifically. And ultimately, kids rebelling and sending the school into a state of disarray. Could a set of kids have toppled the school hierarchy in the past, and the only kids that remain are the ones that are so empty-headed that the monster teacher was able to mold and manipulate them to the signal tower's desires? I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just saying this is the perfect environment to raise kids, mold their minds to become the next generation of viewers. They will obediently obsess over the signal tower's mind poison. They will be people who have no free will and no desire to do anything against the Thin Man and the transmission's wishes. Yet somehow, Six and Mono are the only children we see who have escaped this hellish brainwashing. You'd think they'd always be friends. As we take our sweet time wandering through the halls, thinking and reminiscing on classic songs of old, we eventually recover Six. Yay! Six then strangles a bully because you'd be pissed too if some dudes had you hanging by your feet for a couple hours. I ain't mad. That douchebag deserved it. You get him, Six. Then we leave him in a limp clump on the ground and we go on our merry way. To the hospital. In a little children's playroom in one level of the hospital, we see some of the first depictions of the Thin Man as drawings on the wall, and the all-knowing eye. Just to show us we're not crazy, because other kids are seeing this stuff too. All around this hospital, we see body parts in bins hanging from walls, and even bodies strapped to gurneys. A little odd, but things make even less sense later when we enter a room with mannequins who start to chase us, but freeze whenever the light is on them. According to Alyssa Dukes, an employee at Bandai Namco, these mannequins are people who willingly came to the hospital in search of a medical solution for the boredom infecting their lives. These people were so bored and unhappy with their appearances that they came to the doctor to change how they look. These mannequins can't bear to be seen. They thrive in the darkness because they are so self-conscious of their physical appearance that when the light hits them, they immediately freeze. They're so intent on getting, quote, cutting-edge care that they'll do anything and everything to get it. When they see new organic parts, they see an opportunity to harvest body parts to improve themselves. Even though Mono and Six are children and they'd have like tiny arms on a normal body, that'd be weird. Why would you want that? But that's why these mannequins chase after us, and it's why the doctor tries to capture us as well, to harvest our organic matter. Creepy. Almost as creepy as this mask room, which looks super similar to, remember the music video with the masks. Creepy parallels, huh? We get so creeped out by these parallels that we get to burn the doctor alive. Ha ha ha! Yay. Thus marking the end of his ability to exploit the insecurities of the masses for his own profit. He's basically a sketchy plastic surgeon who works in LA. Because let's be honest, the Pale City is only slightly worse than Los Angeles. The viewers have no individuality. They simply absorb the Pale City's mediocre pop culture that comes to them through screens, and it naturally makes them ugly. Beauty standards in our world have gotten higher and higher as more of our reality moves onto screens. For almost 100 years, television has been raising beauty standards. But now, with social media, the stakes are even higher. Filters, perfect angles, freakishly hot people. People are more focused on appearing good rather than being good. And look how ugly it makes us all feel. From here, we enter one of the most eye-opening parts of the Little Nightmares world, the official level called the Pale City, and encounter our first viewer as he sprints and dives headfirst into a TV screen. This is our first encounter with the viewer thus far, and it shows us the lengths these former people will go to get their precious television's fix. These people lack faces and any sort of individuality that comes with it. It's as though watching TV and digesting the feed from the signal tower is not just stripping people of their individuality, it's also stripping them of their soul. The more and more that these people watch the signal, the more their body implodes on itself until they are just a pair of trousers with no sexy legs to fill them. As their bodies disintegrate, the signal becomes so intertwined with them that when anything threatens their connection to the television screen, they immediately attack. With their minds! Look at any sequence when a viewer kills us. They don't shoot us like the hunter or eat us like the teacher. They use their mind to kill us in a way that's similar to how the TV affects us when we get too close. It's as though the viewers can broadcast the signal tower's message with their corrupt minds. But unlike when the viewers kill us, we are able to control the signal. To close out the Pale City, we make our way down this hallway and through the eye door, where a purple light seeps out as the silhouette of the Thin Man comes to life. He makes his way out of the television and takes Six from us. Mono then magically learns to leverage the power of the signal to teleport through TV screens. And as the Thin Man chases us, we evade him, as everything around him turns staticky, as though he is affecting the world around him, until we get cornered in an alley. In a show of immense strength, Mono uses the signal and tunes it just right to give the Thin Man a taste of his own medicine, killing him. Even the Thin Man can't stand his signal. How is it that Mono is able to defeat his adult self? This isn't just an Achilles heel situation where he exploits a weakness, he straight up overpowers his adult self. But how? Years of perfecting his craft and honing the signal should have given him the ability to defeat a literal child. I don't know about you, but right now, I could beat the fuck out of my 8-year-old self. I wouldn't though. But this could explain why there are so few children in this world. The signal grows more and more powerful by stealing the life forces of the people it comes into contact with. Mono had yet to be infected with the signal tower's reach, and so he still held his full power unaffected, while the Thin Man had been corrupted by the signal tower for years and years, sapping his power and redirecting it into a powerful signal to take over the city. The children in this world are the most powerful because they have been the least manipulated by the world around them. This is why the school is so hard on them and why they leave behind a remnant when Thin Man gets them. The purity of children is the only hope for this place. I alluded to the idea of how everything corrupted Six to drop our single-bagged protagonist. Maybe it seems like I'm rambling here, but everything I've mentioned ties together why Mono couldn't be left alive. So let's tie it all together, it's gonna be sick! It should come as no surprise that the Pale City is a place where free will is absent. Every citizen is a slave to the signal tower. Their individuality is literally eroded by its signal. This is represented by people's faces eroding, becoming hideous. Many feel they need to cover their face. The only ones who don't are the viewers, who are so entranced by the TV signal that they can't pay attention to anything else. This dude is naked and wet and still can't lay off the signal. Who watches TV in the bathtub? What's wrong with you? But for those non-viewers out there, those who are embarrassed by their appearance, for them, the doctor is here to help. Sort of, not really. He makes masks and replaces their biological parts with plastic ones to, quote, make them better. You might say this is all the Thin Man's fault. He lives at the heart of the signal tower, able to tune the signal however he chooses. While everyone in the Pale City wears rags and severe deformities, his face is only kind of shriveled and his clothes are pristine. You could think of him as the suit behind the airwaves. He's the Hollywood executive who said your cousin was too chubby to be an actor even though you've had confusing feelings about her. He's the one controlling the signal, curating its artificial message, broadcasting unrealistic expectations that are as addictive to watch as they are destructive to the psyche. In our world, the TV shows beautiful people living beautiful lives. In Little Nightmares, the TVs are symbolically the same, but literally different, being just mind-melting static. There's even people like the geisha from Little Nightmares 1 who take advantage of this whole situation. The misery of people makes them especially vulnerable to their vices like gluttony. They'll pay top dollar to feast on children sacrificed to the societal machine that only benefits the ones at the top. Speaking of the ones on top, what about that eye? It's drawn all over the place, often in close proximity to drawings of the signal tower. Each time we pass through a television, we see the eye on the door we walk towards. So what is the eye? Obviously, it's symbolic of the signal tower always watching, a big brother kind of thing. But it's more than that. Think about the eye symbol in real life. Does it look familiar? It's a meme of yesteryear that still makes the rounds occasionally. It's the Illuminati. The symbol of which is an eye within a triangle. This similarity is made abundantly clear in the Depths DLC, where we can plainly see a TV with the actual Illuminati symbol seen plain as day. If you're somehow unfamiliar with the Illuminati meme, let me explain. The Illuminati is simply the idea that the ones really in control of society are an elite group. They perceive themselves as better than you. They're in the club on the rooftop drinking $17 drinks while you're doing karaoke at a dive bar drinking Pacifico. And I like Pacifico. Karaoke too. But we're talking about status. They have the money. They have the power. They're millionaires and billionaires pulling the strings, defining the culture, whilst the sheeple and basic bitches buy into the cultural programming and question nothing. Consume. The societal manipulation from the top down keeps things the way they are. The ideas that are transmitted through the mainstream narrative are curated so that the common folk are never truly empowered. They're programmed to look up to those on the screen and those who control the message on it. This robs millions of their free will, living in a sleep reactionary existence. The commoners worship the eye, addicted to poisonous food and poisonous screens. Humanity's potential is stifled. One class is oppressed and exploited, while the other, in luxury, focuses its resources on keeping its power and powdering their noses instead of trying to make the world a better place. I admit, this is a cynical worldview. It's not one I completely buy into, but there's enough truth to it for little nightmares to haunt our dreams. This universe isn't grotesque for the sake of it. It's grotesque in a way that is deeply symbolic. That's why it resonates and pulls in the views. It's an exaggerated version of our universe. So what does all this say about Six needing to drop Mono into the abyss? Well, have you ever wondered what keeps the Pale City the way it is? The hypnotic signal tower for sure. But what keeps the rebels from bubbling up? From toppling the crushing grip of misery that chokes life's meaning? Mono, Six, the Runaway Kid from the DLCs are all rebels in their own way. They don't obey. Rather, they sneak towards their own destiny. As Mono overpowers the Thin Man, he enters the signal towers in hopes of finding Six. There's one important thing that many have overlooked here. Mono no longer has his hat/bag/whatever you were wearing at the time. He set it down to fight his future self. Kinda like when you take off your jacket to really throw down. When Mono enters the signal tower, the disfigured Six is obsessing over her music box. So Mono breaks her music box traumatically. With no bag over his head, Six can now see his face. And maybe you switch to a different hat at some point, but the point of Mono taking off his hat means that no matter what, Six now knows what our almost hero looks like. And you know who else's face Six could see? The Thin Man's. We're in his lair right now. She knows what he looks like. She knows he looks like an older version of this kid who smashed her creepy music box. Bada boom, bada bang, she knows Mono is the Thin Man. As Mono runs towards the exit of the signal tower, the ground collapsing beneath him, Six catches him before he falls. She pauses, thinking about whether to save him or not. We all know what she chooses. Some have proposed she did this because Mono is the reason she still isn't sealed off from the world, listening to her music box as a way to escape. Mono is the reason Six has been put in danger in the first place. This certainly could be part of the reason she doesn't like the boy with the bag on his head. But wouldn't it make more sense that she simply realized who he was? She saved him all those other times before because he was just some kid. But now? She knows who he will turn into and what the consequences of that will be. Rightfully so, she doesn't trust him, letting him fall to what should have killed him. But in a horrible twist of fate, it only fulfills his destiny. That's why Mono had to die. Die as we knew him. Between the hunter, the bullies, the children sausages, the teacher, the doctor, the viewers, and the hideous world that spawned them, Six hated everything. Had she been raised in suburban Huntington Beach or something, she likely wouldn't have been able to bring herself to kill. But she'd seen too much. She wanted this nightmare to end. She wanted the Thin Man dead. And she's not the only one. Even the hunter wanted the suit as a decoration. Though he failed, Six and the hunter in reality both wanted the same thing in the end. They wanted to end the Thin Man. For the hunter, he would make a nice skinny trophy. For Six, it would mean the end of the Pale City and the revenge on the evil man who kidnapped her. The Thin Man has a lot of enemies. Six hating him is only backed up by the immoral hunter even wanting him dead. The school tried its hardest to suck Six into its brainwashy vortex. The bullies bullied her for being different. Yet another reason Six had no empathy for the prodigy who had started all. She was also surely disgusted by the doctor who profited from the mannequin's insecurity. When they ended him, it surely felt like a victory. So much so that she warmed her hands on his burning body. Why not carry that violent mentality forward when it's already worked so well? And for the viewers that those same bullies ultimately become, Six fought against their poisonous screens and addicting transmissions, instead shifting her focus on her own survival into the joyous music box. the same music box that ultimately became her obsession once she was captured by the Thin Man. When Mono destroyed that music box, breaking her from the signal tower's spell, she came to realize she was in a world without her prized possession and where her only friend would ultimately become her kidnapper. The reality of the world she finds herself in is so horrifying that nobody is worth saving. Nobody is worth trusting no matter what. When you have the chance to rid the world of a potential threat, why not take it? The all-seeing eye won out in the end, capturing Mono to transform him into his final form of the Thin Man. The rebel became the suit. Horrible! Is this metaphor that only mutual trust can break the cycles we despise? Yeah, I'd say so. That's not to say that everyone is worth trusting in this world, but when you've been through enough with someone, when they've proven they're willing to bring you an intervention at the risk of their own life, then maybe they're worth trusting. Resentfulness and fear are powerful drugs. They'll rot your mind from the inside out. They'll make you view reality not as it is, but rather as a paranoid fantasy. That's the tragedy of Little Nightmares 2. Had Six trusted, in spite of all her reasons not to, the Thin Man never would have been. Mono would have grown up a hero instead of corrupted by the centerpiece of evil. The self-fulfilling prophecy of paranoia ensures the Pale City would remain as such. Mono didn't have to wear the suit. He didn't have to continue the cycle of misery and propaganda that laid the foundation for the geisha's enterprise. It's easy to look at history and think, this is how it was meant to be. But rarely do we take the time to lament the paths that could have been. Rarely do we wonder what the world would be had the demons lost to more benevolent forces. Knowing the greatest antagonist of all is still alive and well after all this, we know Six will eventually have to deal with this corporate overlord without the help of her companion. Perhaps she'll have the help of other kids, but even then, she'll have to learn to trust. Six is a reminder that acting on your most hateful urges has transcendental consequences. Doing so will haunt the world, and it will place the most grotesque villains in your path. Of course, Six has the chutzpah to kill the geisha despite having helped strengthen the world where she thrives. But what if the Thin Man had never donned the suit? What if the kid with the bag on his head had grown up to be ragtag instead of corporate? Would a fight to the death with the Demon of the Maw have even been necessary? Surely the airwaves would have calmed to a much kinder frequency. Surely the people of this broken world would have been significantly less broken, significantly less eager to indulge in their cruel, shameless cravings for flesh that the villain of Little Nightmares 1 exploits. And the children of the school, they wouldn't be so corrupted by the signal tower. There's a scene I didn't go into yet. Walking through the cafeteria, the bullies are losing their minds. They're rambunctious, a stark contrast to their suppressed energy in the classroom. There's something brewing beneath the surface of even these ceramic kids who were baked in the kiln of the Pale City's education system. There's a rebellion waiting to happen. Another brick in the wall, that undeniably parallel song, also shows a rebellion. Once obedient children burning the establishment to the ground. Though the music video ends to show this all happening inside of a school kid's mind, that is where revolutions always begin to brew, in the minds of the young. When this old song came out, the revolution was the counterculture of the 1960s. Say what you want about the Western world today, but thanks to boomers throwing off their Argyle socks and running barefoot to rock concerts, our culture is a far less repressive place to be. Self-expression, be it artistic, sexual, intellectual, or otherwise, is far more acceptable than it was right after World War II. The revolution happened in our world. That's why I believe it will happen in Little Nightmares. It won't be tie-dye, and there won't be uplifting music about peace and love to spark it. Rather, the Pale City Rebellion will be brutal and dreary, but ultimately necessary. It will be more chaotic, more resentful, because finding love in Little Nightmares is like trying to find a mushroom in Minecraft. It exists, but it's hard to find. You can think of Six as just less demonic than the world around her. She wants to burn it down, not build up a kinder world. She's not your friend, pal. She's driven by hatred of hateful people, not by love of lovely people. She sees the bad in you more than the good. That's why the Pale City's inevitable rebellion will look more like the French Revolution, with guillotines and all, much more than it will look like the hippie counterculture. Well-meaning people will be trampled in a maelstrom of bloodlust to behead the king. If Six had saved Mono, would we even be in the right world? The hero of Little Nightmares is deeply broken. She just has more willpower than the normies. On a more positive note, knowing the Thin Man is still alive, I do wonder what side of the revolution he'll be on. Is Mono still in there somewhere? Perhaps his loss to his more innocent self will reawaken a piece of his innocence. Perhaps he will forgive Six and help her. But not in a corny superhero duo kind of way. They won't be a team per se. Likely, Corporate Mono will take on the villain role again. Then there will come a critical moment where he chooses mercy over resentment, and it makes all the difference. It will be the spark that ignites the revolution. In a perfect world, Six wouldn't have acted on her spiteful impulses. Then the takeaway would have been much more cheery. Fight your demons head on, using the support from those around you, and in turn support them. But Six was already emotionally damaged when Mono met her for the first time, distancing herself from everything except for her music box. And when Mono took the one thing from her that she cared about, even though he did it out of love, her demons took over. She acted impulsively, betraying maybe the only person in this world that cared about her. There's an old saying, it's maybe even a little cliche, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Hurting others because you have been traumatized in the past perpetuates an unnecessary cycle that consumes the world in negativity. But hurt people don't have to hurt people. Just because someone did you wrong and you're battling demons doesn't mean that you have to weaponize your negativity. Doing so will only drive the nails further. Unless some people, you really should just slap him, but Mono didn't deserve that. Six had been so corrupted by the Pale City and the experiences within it that she only saw Mono for what he became and not the potential of what he could be. In her mind, he had to be stopped. When you lose yourself to the demons inside you, demons will naturally spawn in front of you. Maybe you'll have the strength to defeat them, but will the world be better off than if you'd kept them from thriving in the first place? This isn't a plea for pacifism. In fact, I've had people in my life I'm glad I let go of. But I didn't drop them into an abyss. I simply distanced myself and wished them the best. I wish Six had done the same. I wish Mono had lived a full life instead of a sad story arc. But then, Little Nightmares wouldn't be a nightmare. Next time you have the opportunity to let someone go, will you punish them, or will you just let them go? That's why Mono had to die. The story you never knew.
That was great. Like and subscribe.
Get back to work.
But what if they forgot to like and subscribe?
I'm not worried about that right now. And commenting is fine.
Oh, okay.
I can't wait to read you guys' comments. See that like number shoot to the moon? Like Bitcoin. We missed you guys.